Sup, everybody? Sup, Carrie and Rebecca?
Sup, everyone?
Oh, man. Here we are, Tuesday. Well, Tuesday night for us, right? Maybe not for other folks out there, but rocking and rolling with our straight up positive and getting things going. So I'm curious, Rebecca, I'm seeing a little bit of a different background going on there. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and actually, I was going to say the same thing because your background keeps getting fancier and fancier. Like you're getting your whole setup just how you want it, aren't you?
I'm
I
trying.
like it. You got a new privacy screen.
Yeah, trying some new things, just seeing how it goes, especially because this wonderful thing, I've heard some positive comments about it and I was missing it and I had a need and I needed to meet it. And this just seemed to work out. How about you?
Since I moved a few weeks to about a month ago now, I haven't gotten my sign back out. But actually today I am calling in I also have a privacy screen. It's called my door to my bedroom because I have nieces here for spring break and they are, let's just say they're not the quietest. So I decided to come and hide in my bedroom for the call for this meeting. So anyway, yes, you're right. I'm in a different place, but I am so happy to be here because notice the emoji bracelet, by the way, because we have such a fun crew on tonight.
Yes.
Back in December, we had Mark and Brenda Roberts. For anyone that isn't familiar with Mark and Brenda Roberts, you are going to get to know them tonight because they are a part of the PAC family. Speaking of family, when we had them on, did you notice something about the chat that night, Matthew?
Yeah, I did. There was somebody really blowing up that chat. I mean, there was just comment after comment and
it was so fun. And so who was that? Was that just a big fan of Mark and Brenda's or something?
No, it was actually our first guest tonight, which is Tracey Roberts Fuller. Welcome to the show. Sup, Tracy?
Oh, what's up? Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad I get
Tracy.
a voice. I don't just get chat today.
Yes.
She actually has a voice. We get to hear her, and I bet she looks like a multitasker. I bet she's a multitasker. She may be writing in the chat while she is a go-getter, a firecracker, like someone else I know. I don't know if it's on your screen where I'm pointing, but yeah. So welcome to SUP, Tracy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. We really enjoyed the lively commenting going on, and we're like, oh my gosh, we got to get Tracy on. She's got to come. We got to check out this dynamic because there just seems so much more to that story and what was going on. But before we dive in, before we get into that, we would love to know who you are, Tracy. Give us some background. Tell us about how long you've been married, how many kids you have, what's your profession, all that good stuff.
My age. I just had a birthday. I turned 43 yesterday.
Well, happy birthday. Oh my God.
Do you like long walks on the beach, Tracy? That's what we're looking for here.
Yes. And if you would like to pay me with that ticket to the beach, I'm all about that. Now, I have been married 22 years to the same old man, and I have two boys who are 21 and 18. I know I don't look old enough to have 21 and 18. It's okay. And I have a grandbaby who is 2. What? Yes, I do. And I am an online 4th grade teacher.
That is so cool. So online 4th grade teacher, 2 kids, right? And you have a grandbaby. Oh my gosh. They say don't wish your life away or wish time away, but I can't wait till I can have grandkids because I would love to spoil the heck out of them and then send them back home to my kids like my mom or my wife's mom does. Right? That sounds like the fun stuff. We get to deal with the aftermath. But that is so cool. So, wow, you definitely are rolling with some stuff.
Yup, and I get to be the eldest daughter for Mark and Brenda.
Ooh, so the eldest daughter for Mark and Brenda. So what does that entail? Tell us about that.
So we have a unique situation where we live together. I know. I moved in with my parents when I was like 36, and I thought I wouldn't. I was like, what? Move back in with your parents at age 36. It's not the dream world, but you know. So we have interesting dynamic. But the interesting thing is that previous to moving into with each other, we still had a really close, odd relationship because we saw each other all the time. And my mom used to joke, why don't we just live together? Why don't we live together? And I'm like, there's a reason why. I don't want to live with you. Couldn't live 18 years. How can I do it again? But I am. I'm fine. So we spent all kinds of time together. They were at every kid game. My mom brought dinner. My mom thinks it's fun to do laundry, so I invited her over. I know. And so we had this very odd, close relationship to begin with. Particularly, I would say, you know, I thought my mom would never grow up, but she did, and she became my best friend.
So you have this close relationship. And so what we haven't actually said outright, and maybe if someone hasn't seen our superstars, Mark and Brenda, on PAC events and PAC happenings before, you might not know that actually Mark is living with brain change. And so I'm curious about what you noticed, or maybe what were you aware of? Because when things first started to change, were you living together at that time, or was that before then?
No, I didn't become nice and allow them to move in with me until afterward. So no, we were living in the same town, living our, you know, own separate times, but yet we saw a lot of each other previous to that. And so we had a great relationship but like every family there, you know, there are issues, and my mom's the big issue. No, I'm just kidding. And so one of the most important things I think is to say when I share our story is that I want people to recognize that there's ups and downs, and we are not a perfect family, and we were not to begin with. And even now, we still make mistakes. We are not perfect. We just choose to have a positive outlook and work together as a team. So in the very beginning, I would say my dad has always had a temper growing up. And previous to diagnosis was very interesting because his anger came out even more. And so I was very defensive of that anger. And mine was like, time out, not putting up with you, goodbye. You know, we're not doing this. And when right before diagnosis, my mom had moved out. They had, collision of their relationship. Like a lot of people who have dementia, right? The marriage it's a huge challenge. It's a huge thing on your marriage. But my parents were fantastic, and they separated, and we didn't know what to do and what was happening, and we didn't know what was going on with Dad. But I had a cocky attitude, and I thought I was going to take control, and I was going to save my mom, and she was going to come live with me. To be honest, I was like, well, Dad, we're done. We're not going to deal with that. And, I say that because I've heard from several families who say they got to the point that they weren't talking to their family member. And I want people to recognize that you can get to that point, but you can come back. And we have come back from that.
Yeah. So, wow, that's a big shift. So as a 30-something with kids, suddenly you have the situation where you go, all right, mom's moved out, and we don't know part of what's going on. We're attributing these changes to personality changes.
Yes.
So what was that like when we started to kind of put the pieces together? Because for those of you that didn't watch the December episode, go back and watch Mark and Brenda's, because they really talked about that whole diagnosis process and the fact that Mark had come to your mom and said something's going on, and she says no, because I work in the industry, I know dementia, and this is right. And so what was that process like, getting that from that thinking it was history and character
Mhm.
or something to, oh, wait, now we know it's this other thing?
So I think that the biggest help was counseling, and my dad says it often too. And that's one thing that may be different about my dad. My dad has faith and has always been strong about working on yourself, no matter who you are and what age you are. You always have room to grow. So that's something I did learn from my dad growing up. So of course they turned to counseling and forced us all to go. Thanks. No, it was a good thing. It was a good thing. Our entire family went. My sister, my husband, her husband. We all went in and taught. And then I think the best thing that got us towards the hurdle to recognize what was past and what needs to be put aside was Dad and I went in with a one-on-one. And he was a brave guy, and he heard it all and he took it all in, and he, I give him a lot of credit for being willing to do that. But I think that that is the most important piece to us moving on. Yeah, and I don't know, somewhere along the way, mom teaches us lots of dementia things. She thinks she knows it all. But somewhere along the way, she had said, your pet peeves about this person are going to come even more to light as dementia comes through. And guess what? I think part of the reason we're positive and able to move forward is we dealt with what was at hand and what were the pet peeves. And Dad is able. And that's one thing I don't like, is sometimes I get an impression that people think people with dementia are not able to change or learn. And yes, they can. And my dad worked really hard, and it may have taken him more sessions to get there, but he still did it. And so I think the number one thing was going to counseling, getting the past off the plate, letting it go. My mom used to say to me, even growing up, like when I was an adult and I like to blame her for things, she would tell me, there's a point where you have to grow up and stop blaming me. I did the best I could with what I had. Okay, she may have been right on that one. So I think that was important on my part of acceptance, and then being able to move to a leadership position of, okay, a group attack, what are we going to do? Let's fix it.
Yeah. So you guys got that opportunity to voice your side and give that, and especially with Mark there, with your dad there, and how that can really help when you're trying to reconnect or get to that point of starting that healing process and going forward, can be such a vital piece of that. And so now we're getting into where here's the diagnosis. Your dad has been diagnosed. What was going on at that point when that hit, when you got that official? How was that for you as a daughter?
So we, the first thing we did was, of course, I started jumping online. As an online teacher, I'm like, yeah, all the answers are online. So we began Googling and, searching on YouTube. And the sad thing is that there's a lot of negative, a lot of sad ending stories, and not a lot of beginnings, not a lot of positive approaches. So my mom started to do the PAC training. And just like everything, she forces us to do it too. And so, so we, I think as she started to learn that stuff, she started to teach the rest of us. And so honestly, we moved so quickly. I have a YouTube video because we have a Facebook and a YouTube channel that we tried to start. And I do this video where I say, I didn't react. There was a long period of time that I didn't react. My sister cried, but I didn't cry. And that's kind of my personality too. But I really think it was because I pushed the feelings back, and I was like, we have to move forward. We have to do something. We don't have time to be a blubbering mess. My mom and sister do enough of that, right? So, and so my concentration was just on what are our next steps. And, it was, Mom, what do we do? Mom, where do we go? Mom, because Mom has been doing this for her entire life, right? And so I thought she had all the answers, but I figured out she didn't. So once she started doing PAC and we were able to start thinking about how dad was processing information and how we were supposed to be responding, we were able to start thinking and including him in the planning and early planning. Kudos to my mom. Again, that she was thinking early, like we have to get situated now so that when we do come to the point where it's really heavy and hard, we're set, we're good, and we're where we want to be. So I think that PAC training was huge to teach us what dad's thinking was and how we need to shut up a little bit and talk less, which my mom talks all the time. So do I. So that was a big curveball for mom and I. How do we talk less, present dad with ideas, right, on what we're going to be our next steps? And Teepa says this or that. And so it was, do you want this or that?
Yeah. I love that, Tracy. I love that you're talking about how you were able to really, this whole positive approach to care, that's not all about deficits, that there are positives, and that you're not making decisions. You're not saying we sat down and made a bunch of decisions for Mark. No, we sat down and we as a family started making some decisions. And part of that was seeking out positive approach to care. And I don't know if you know this, Tracy, but actually I was in a certification course with your mom, a consultant course. Oh, Brenda's laughing.
I'm sorry.
Well, we'll tell you the story over a glass of wine one day.
Okay.
It was great. I have the fondest memories of her. So part of what she wanted to do, and it sounds like you guys as a family were like, well, let's really dig deeper into this Teepa thing and this positive approach to care. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, what were some shifts? And you said the this or that was one of the examples of kind of what she brought back to the family. Any other examples of things that she brought back from her courses that kind of help guide you all?
Yeah, it was fun. I think it was, it's good to, even the things that she learned, that like approaching someone with dementia, approaching from the side and the handshake, all of that stuff my dad doesn't need yet. But my dad having dementia has really opened our minds to people around us that have it. And we've been more inclusive with those people. So it was helpful when approaching people that were further on. And it created a family bond too, because my dad was out there. We have YouTube videos of my dad out there teaching the boys how to approach somebody with dementia, and all about eye contact. And I really think, like my mom used to talk, we had a hard time with, dad's anger and how do we help him? And so sometimes it feels like you're circling, I don't even know. Why is he mad about this? This is so silly. But, mom came back and taught us, like, we have to find the real reason. He might be mad he lost a tool, but he's not really mad that the tool is lost. What is the real meaning? And so circling around until you could find that. And if you couldn't find it the first time, don't give up. Try again, right? I think that's one of the biggest things mom brought back. Keep trying. Don't give up.
Yeah. And so that recognition of unmet needs, and how a lot of times those unmet needs can be masked by other things. And that anger one is definitely a big one that we see first when it comes to some kind of unmet need. And being a detective and looking for that part, and how that can make a huge difference, because it's not about the tool, it's about something else. Something else is going on, and how that can make that difference.
And she really brought back about, like, we tried right from the beginning about changing dad's environment. So what changes can we make to set him up to be successful? So I think we came back with, it starts with us. Mom and I kind of took it personal. Like, if dad didn't have a good day, it was our fault. What do we have to change in the environment? Because dad can't change it all. What do we need to change to make it work? So do you want me to tell you a funny story?
Yes, okay. Please.
Okay, so we have this great idea. And my mom has come back with, and we all know this, we've done research, we have watched the Teepa videos, we watch her YouTube, we are listening. And Teepa says, like, don't talk too much, which we struggle with. Lessen, like, the input, right? So make sure their environment is set up for success. So we have this great idea. my sister decides that we should take mom and dad to the casino for my mom and dad's anniversary. This is shortly after we learned all this. We learned it. And we're like, yay, my mom included. Yay, this is a great idea. It's going to be so much fun. And then we get there and we're like, oh, crap. We forgot everything Teepa told us. That was a mistake with all the input and I looked around and like, how silly are we? The lights are flashing, the sounds are going bing, 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 and we're going, Dad, press this, Dad, press that. Like, seriously, how could the guy even focus? I don't know. But you know, I did learn from Teepa the less verbal. And so I do have YouTube videos about the silly experience, how we thought we were so smart, but we weren't. But in the situation, I took Teepa's less verbal. And so I could tell that my dad was struggling with the slot machines. And so I would tap the button he needed to press, and he'd tap it, and I tap the next, and I press it. And so I didn't say anything. I just used verbal, or, you know, cues. I know. I did do something right that day, but the rest, no. Don't highly recommend.
Job. I love it. And you know what else? Another tool that I was thinking of, Tracy, when you were talking was just that ability to kind of like stop and pause and take a time out and say, oh, wait a second. What were we thinking? Okay, so let's change this and make it more successful. And if it meant leaving, probably, you know, leave. But you were able to find a way that minimize the stimulus and then using there I go with Packlish, VVT, I was going to say the visual verbal touch. And that's such a great, like, aha, and a success. You didn't have to just not do it. You were able to find success in the moment. And that's so cool. And so speaking of timeouts, I just have to say timeout because I'm so glad you're here and I'm loving this conversation with you. Like, I knew that I loved your mom and dad, but it's so fun having you. And I'm literally getting text messages from friends who are watching going, I love this family. So I had a timeout and tell you that. So that skill of timeout. So you're at the casino and you go, okay, wait, what are we doing?
Yeah. Well, and I think what we also learned in retrospect is you're going to make mistakes no matter how much you know. As a teacher, I 100% believe this. You can always learn more, even if it's just a little something. So we can always, all of us can improve. And you're not going to be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes. And I think that's one thing that, you know, Teepa pushes is just keep going back and trying. It's okay. And don't be deflated because you took him to a casino and overstimulated him. It's okay. You know, good job. You figured out how to touch the buttons. I mean, at least there was one thing out of the whole thing.
Right. Exactly. And that's what you're pointing out there, that piece of, look, it's not necessarily all about the negative. And you said this before, everything you were seeing out there when you were looking for what do we do now is so negative. And one thing that PAC, or Positive Approach to Care, really brings to the table is that, hey, you did some stuff that was good. So what are two things that went well? What are two things that went, oh, you used some visual and it helped your dad still do this piece. And it wasn't, you were doing it for him, you know, and you did the part of, oh, shoot, this isn't where we should be right now, or maybe this isn't so good. How can I modify this? And then that one change piece was that, okay, maybe we might need to think about this next time and where we go and what we do and have a little more prep. So, but it's still that positive first. What went well? How? And that one piece of, okay, what are we going to try different? And that helps you to continue to grow and improve whatever it is you're doing or get more awareness. And so it sounds like you're so involved in that education piece with the YouTube videos and everything else. And so we're curious what kind of, or if there are those plans for like maybe a future certification for you, Tracy, or something else.
Yeah, it's possible. I get a ton through mom, you know, a ton through mom, and I've sat through quite a bit on my own. And I'd have to say, like, one of the big things is, you know, Teepa says, create your team. you know? And so we have a team, and that team is supporting me and might free me up a little bit to be able to do some of that stuff someday. You know, like, and this is a good suggestion I love for other people too. So we have a friend, Rachel, who Zooms with my dad. And it is a gift from heaven. I don't think she realizes how important she is, but she's extremely important. My dad loves her. My dad loves to talk. He has a talking problem too. It runs in the family. And so he could talk for hours, and we've heard these stories before. So it is very helpful. Rachel volunteers to Zoom with him. They set dates, and he gets on the computer, and she just lets him talk about anything. And because Rachel loves us and knows our situation, you know, we don't worry when dad fabricates. We're like, whatever. Speaking of which, that's one of the things we learned too, right? We don't need to bring that up and point it out every single time. And so with Rachel, he's able to just get on and talk about the glorious world and the beautiful flowers and the farm and all those fun things. And so having her frees me up a little bit when you talk about having a grandbaby and boys and a demanding job. And, you know, so those things still on my plate don't allow me to do as much as I would love to do with dementia. But there are plans as life frees up, and people like my best friend, Erica, has stepped in and said, anytime you need me to come pick up your dad and just take him for a deer drive or something as things progress, she's willing to do that. So I think building a team, making sure you have time set aside for yourself, whether that's educating yourself with PAC or, you know, whatever it might be, that you need to make sure that you take time for yourself too and seek help.
Thank you for saying that, Tracy, because that is something that I feel like, as not actively caregiving for someone right now. I'm not actively in a care partner situation. Matthew is not currently in a care partner situation. Carrie is not. So when we say those things, I feel like it just doesn't mean as much. And so for you to say that, like, how important it is to build your team, and for you to say how important it is to take care of yourself. And I mean, just hearing you say that, I really appreciate it. Thank you. That's so cool. It means something different coming from you.
Thanks. Yeah, and being creative, you know, you got to be creative so that you can do those things like positive approach, because you do need to educate yourself. It does make you feel better, and you get a support team while you're going at it, you know. And like my mom, you got to meet my crazy mom who gave you some laughs. It's worth it, you know. And so creative ways might be to let your, you know, loved one Zoom on with a great friend.
And what a shout out to Rachel. So yay, Rachel, we love you. She's the best. Brenda, Mark, are you just, I mean, have you had your finger on the unmute button? Like, just when are they going to let us talk? So Mark, I thank you for telling, because I had a feeling that was what was happening. Hi, welcome back to SUP, you guys.
Thank you.
We're really glad to be here, and we're really proud of our daughter. Even though she likes to take pot shots at me.
I mean, she was like, you're muted. She was doing it all. She was doing all the chat.
I have to say, I don't know why, you know, I really love the dementia, because I don't know why I didn't move in with my parents before. I'm so dumb. Like, my mom likes to cook and do laundry. Yeah, she's not that bad. I really like her now.
Can I borrow her for like maybe a week or something?
Sorry.
So yeah, I'm curious. Go ahead, Brenda.
I was just going to say, and then you can ask us, but you know, I always make notes when people are talking, and I only found one thing Tracy said that was noteworthy. And that was when she talked about the, you know, the counseling and Dad's ability, Mark's ability to take part of that. So to me, there is one of the reasons for an early diagnosis.
Yeah.
People don't know the damage to relationships when you don't understand what's happening. And like Tracy, you mentioned at supper tonight, the friend we have whose dad had FTD, frontal temporal dementia, and they didn't know for a really long time. And then by that time, they had been also hurt or, whatever, because they didn't understand that they didn't come back around, like we were able to come back around. And so I think in early diagnosis, to prevent some of that emotional damage that's done, plus then us being able to partner as a family to repair those relationships.
Yeah, you're right. And that idea of an early diagnosis is so important. And yet, even working in the industry, I mean, you did get an early diagnosis, but there was a time period where, Brenda, even you said, I didn't think that's what was going on, right?
You're rubbing in, Rebecca.
Do it. Just rub.
No, I'm not. It's not a jab. It's just to say this is how easily it can be explained away. Or, I mean,
well, you're yes. I was just giving you a hard time, Rebecca. You know that. But really, the thing of it is I think that as a society, we tend to think, dementia is a spectrum, right? And we tend to think of this very late in life spectrum of dementia. And those are, unfortunately, that's also where most of the supports and services are, right? They're, at least our personal experience has been at the starting of that spectrum, there's not that much support and service available. And so what do we see? That group of people. And we had never seen Mark has been diagnosed over 7 years.
7 years.
7 years now. Thank you for remembering for me. 7 years now. And nobody told us there was going to be 7 years of good life. We immediately jumped to the other end. Do you have anything you want to share?
Well, and the individual with, like myself, you have to make a commitment, what you want. And, to have your family sit there and cry because they've been hurt, that's like, might as well run me over with a semi truck, but it was the best thing that they did, because I didn't give up on myself. I was going to make a change, and I was going to make it so that early enough that I'll have whatever my memory would hang on to that, and I would do this right on through when I can't really communicate or whatever, to help hold the anger. And this is something that I have prayed for all my life, and I finally did it. I finally won the battle. I did the right things. And so right now I can say I have no intention of changing back to the old Mark. But
I got her. I'd kick you out. So
yeah. But I always tried to be the good person, but I don't know what happened when I would go home with my family, why that didn't happen sometimes.
Well, and it was there was, like we said, those characteristics earlier in life. When you say like everyone else thought dementia meant memory loss. And I didn't see that he came home from work, like at the boiling point, as memory loss. I thought of it as a personality problem, but he had struggled all day long trying to put the pieces together, that by the time he came home, he was at his wit's end in just a little bit, and he was over the top. And so people frequently, when we speak at conferences, asks, well, how did he get from here? Because there are a lot of people out there in the same situation. That's why we talk about it so much, is because there's lots of people who aren't talking about it, but are in the same circumstances. And they say, how did you get from being so angry to a positive disposition? Well, first of all, like Tracy said, the whole people with with dementia can't learn. Mark has learned coping techniques. So like you get bad thoughts running in your head, right? So what do you do when you get bad thoughts running through your head now?
I turn on my music on my phone, or there's a lot of history stuff or research and stuff. I love that kind of stuff. So I would get on YouTube and do that. I've even got into listening to Pavarotti and
So
a lot of his history and singing. So it takes me away from that. And then I'll say, well, it's been 2 hours. I need to go to sleep. I just go to sleep.
So he's figured out ways when the bad thoughts come in that to distract himself so he doesn't continue to work himself up. So and that's just one example. We tell you lots of things he does now. And then the other, then he does preventative sorts of things like making sure you get your rest, right?
Yes.
If he doesn't keep up on his rest, then that's a major. And then the other thing is to really reduce the amount of stress. So, when he was first diagnosed, he was working. And even when you love your job, there's still stress at work. And that was stressful. The other thing, living with the kids, Mark, we've tried to alleviate the expectation that he has to. Like he has to mow or he has to move snow. Now, if he feels like it in the morning, he wants to get up and move the snow, he'll move the snow. But he doesn't have that pressure of thinking, oh, I have to get up and move the snow before the kids go to work, or I have to mow the lawn. So we've tried to move the have tos to the want tos, so I feel up to it, I want to do it. Or if he doesn't feel up to it and then he feels the pressure to do it,
Right.
then that almost makes it. And then the whole time, to learn to Mark washes windows, okay? But it takes him a really, really long time to get through the house to wash the windows, right?
Yes.
And so it doesn't matter, right? I mean, it's just if somebody washed your windows, you'd let them wash it on their schedule, right? Yeah. So, and then for me, what I've had to learn is, okay, so the Windex and the paper towel is out in the house for 2 weeks, but I just have to learn the Windex is out in the house. I like my house picked up, right? And so it's out. So those are the kinds of things that we've done.
There's a place for everything and everything in its place, right? Yeah. And so oh my gosh, you guys just gave us like a treasure trove of tips and things. And a lot of this centers around knowing Mark and his schedule, the things that he likes, the things that help to bring that amygdala down. And so I'm curious from your guys' standpoint. So Brenda and Tracy, looking back from the start of this and the diagnosis to now, what are some tips that you guys would have for families out there who are going through that initial process, or they're going through this middle piece, or trying to figure things out and are struggling? What would be your advice to them for what you guys have done for yourself as well to help through this process?
I'd say they need to do Teepa's training, because when I've been on Zoom we have caregivers, and then we have there was a lady that she was just frustrated with her husband. She just done this and done that. She can't sleep because she's so frustrated. And so she started to say, and he wants to get me a Christmas present. I tell him no. And they're in their 70s, mid 70s. And I said, well, why can't he get you a gift? And she said, well, I got to go and look it up and do it. I said, is it living hell or you want to live? And I said, just say, great. yes, I want a Christmas present. He said, then pick one out and that's what your present will be. And she did. And she ordered it, put it under the tree and everything. He was tickled pink that he at least got her something. And it's really helped her to approach him a little bit different. He's involved. And like me, I feel I'm really involved, but there's other people around me that are helping me along with the certain difficulties that I have. And so it's a different world. You have to think it backwards a little bit sometimes, and get some training, get a counselor, but you gotta, that's another thing is you can get the wrong counselor too. And that happened with me with a dementia. The lady she just hadn't studied it before, hadn't put her, what I want to say is it hadn't had very many people come to her as a counselor. So when Brenda found somebody that worked with people with dementia, well, that was a whole different world. The approaches were the right approaches. There wasn't any confusion from my side at all. So
the lesson is, if you don't get it the first time, again, don't give up. Just because we didn't get the counselor we first was a match, keep going until you get the right match. Sissy, I'm curious what you have to say about what would you tell people?
Try not to move in with your parents. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's been the biggest blessing. It really has. I would say my number one is to build that team. That's my number one. And as a young adult who has a young parent with dementia, I feel like I'm in a unique situation, and it has been hard to find other people in my situation. And so what we have done is created what we need. So my mom created support groups at church, and we invited younger people, and I got new friends. So, and mom has volunteered us. So don't be shy. Volunteer, because volunteering through MSU to help them think about rural dementia has connected us with them. And then they're starting to think, oh, well, maybe these young people do need something. So don't be afraid to speak up and ask for help, and find somebody who you can vent to, who's going to shut up. Like somebody who's going to listen. I have friends who talk like me, like talk too much. When I want to talk about my dad and my mom, I just need somebody to say, I hear you. I maybe they say they understand, they don't, but just tell me you hear me, you understand me. And I think education is huge. I can't imagine, and not just without PAC, but without all the resources we've gathered in education, where would we be? And because it's so hard, don't give up. You have to seek out the kind of people you want. We wanted positive. Well, PAC fits that for us. So figure out what you want and need, just like finding a mate, make a little list and seek it out. I know they don't have dating relationships for dementia people, and I don't know resources, but maybe I should make that. That would be the bomb.
There you go, girl.
So really I love that idea of building your team, and then the freedom to say, this is not the right teammate, and we're going to find a different one. And knowing kind of what your overall goals was, which one of them was being positive, and really trying to live well with dementia.
Yes, that's number one.
And so Brenda, I'm curious with you. When I met you, I thought originally that you were really going to the course because of your work.
Oh.
So I'm curious, did you find Teepa before you were having this family situation? Or
I did. I had seen Teepa, in some presentations prior to that. And at that time, you know, I actually remember the first time and how I came back to my employer's office and was like, whoa, you know, and knew then that, you know, I had to help, you know, carry this message. And that was before Mark was diagnosed. And then, so I wasn't as heavy into it. Part of my job through work is dementia education. So I was just kind of dabbling compared to what we do now. And so then once Mark was diagnosed, you know, U of M offers a graduate certificate program, and I, you know, in dementia, and I went and got that. And I'm like, okay, that's just good information. It's still not quite what I wanted. And then I ran around and attended every conference and every certification and all that sort of thing. Country year. And I started the training practicing my training at church on our church family. And then, so the other thing is, Tracy did she went with us. We did all the training together. Mark did the training. People talked to Mark, people talked to me, people talked to Tracy. And then we even had some people who wouldn't come to the trainings because most of the people weren't out in terms of that I'm the one in the family with that dementia. And so we had some people who watched on Facebook. They would never come live, but the person with dementia was, you know, Tracy was showing it on Facebook and they were watching. And so, and then the other part of the whole education. So when we decided to educate the entire community, anybody we interacted with. So our entire church got training, and then Tracy trained the soccer team, right, Sissy?
Yep, just shared.
Talk about
so that. There had been some things that happened, and we may have seen some moments of dementia in soccer. And we were met with great love, which, man, I just can't say enough to don't be afraid to come out, you know. So though I explained what dementia was, things that they have seen and may have seen, and this is how you can help us. And I'm sure Dad doesn't remember when he gets angry or anything. And there was one time where Dad was getting very angry with the ref, and we had given him signals, like I used to be like this or touch him or something. And he wasn't listening, and I remember he wasn't listening to me. And one of the other soccer dads came over and started talking to him about something different to divert his attention. And my dad loves to socialize and be supportive of other people. And that was enough to get his mind off what was annoying him, you know, to get him back on track. So I can't speak highly enough about that soccer team and how loving and supporting they were. And I can't say enough.
Yeah.
Just come out, just be honest.
Yeah, because Tracy, then our soccer family, it was like our church family, it was a safe place, and our soccer family was a safe place of your little kids learning about dementia.
Yes, so I did. I just love my mom's Dementia Minds group. Oh my goodness, they are the best people ever. And they just blow my mind because they are so intelligent and they have hilarious personalities. I hope they see this. They're amazing. But they are amazing. I really enjoy them. So I have tried to spread what we know and awareness. And I love my classroom. I love my students. And we had career day. So my idea was I educated my students about dementia, just a little bit, not a ton, which was fantastic because then students in my class were saying, I live with my grandma and she has dementia. And, you know, I live with my grandpa who has dementia. So we were making connections as a community and we were supporting each other, but I was also educating them about dementia. And then I brought in for career day, only people from my mom's Dementia Minds group. They're phenomenal. So we gave them purpose. We surrounded them with love. Those kids just thought they were fantastic, which they were anyway, but you know, purpose, we made them feel good. We were setting them up for success. So that's another way that I have tried to spread awareness, and that's my favorite way.
Yeah, and how great is that to be stigma busted, get stigma busting in 4th grade instead of in your 40s, So those kids see people living with dementia in a whole different perspective than, one night we were on a Zoom meeting with some of our friends and our grandson came over and he started talking about hunting and all the people told, their hunting stories, and he had butchered his first, well, this one is a turkey, a tame turkey, but he had raised turkeys for Thanksgiving and he had butchered his first turkey. And so the gentleman on the Zoom with us was telling him how to brine a turkey. And so anyway, Brandon's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And so then we have double doors between our 2 houses. And I heard him go on the other side of the double doors and I heard him say to his mom and dad, those people Nana and Papa are talking to are really cool. Now, and they are, they are cool. But, so our kids our soccer kids, Tracy's students, all have a new perspective on what it is to live with dementia.
Oh my gosh. So let me just say my heart is like exploding right now. My heart first self here is just like, wow, this is awesome. And how I would love to be a part of every moment of it and just see all of that would be amazing. So yeah, you guys need to keep doing what you're doing.
We have
I don't think anybody
really,
needs to tell you that, but keep doing it. Keep going.
We have a really, really, really good life, and our relationship is. What do you think about our relationship?
Much, much better.
Much better.
I thought he was going to go, sucks.
Yeah.
That would have been funnier,
never
Dad.
ask a question you don't know the answer to.
Right?
If I wasn't on a serious Zoom, I would have said that.
Told you. No, just
Oh, Mark, thank you so much for giving us that designation that we're a serious Zoom. I really appreciate that. That's a big.
Oh, that's quite all right.
So I'm curious. Okay, so looking at this journey, okay, and everything you guys have been through, everything that you guys have done, what's one thing that you have learned about yourself during this journey? And I know you guys kind of talked about the pieces of, I talk a lot, I need to talk less, but really looking at this whole journey and how things have happened. And, as we go through journeys, things change us. We get new experiences, but what's that one thing that you can say?
For me, that has really been my point that you're trying to make is it's having faith in God. And I had faith in God, but I had faith in God. This is, I have faith in Jesus Christ, and that, I think back all the things I used to do for communities and free, and other people needed help. I just help them. That's part of being a good servant. But and now I'm an educator, and I am not only have went to my classroom and educated, but I kept control. I listened. If I didn't understand, I asked. And a lot of people, and I know there's a lot of people that won't do that because, that's an embarrassment. Well, it's not to me. I've had some real embarrassing things happen to me, and that's nothing. So, and now I know I'm a lot better Christian. I'm doing exactly what that I should be doing because I feel so good inside. So, and it could be somebody else's, they pick something else that makes it happen for them. and could be working at a senior center or something, or working with children at school. So it's all those avenues are there. It's just trying to work on the ones that you really think is going to make your life successful, and that's without a lot of pain.
Sissy, I'm wondering, Tracy, what's your response to that question?
Okay, then
I'm still thinking.
Number one thing I think I learned about myself was I need to offer more grace. So that's not just in our house. It is in our house, right? I need to start, I was, okay, everybody's self-centered, but I was self-centered, like maybe a little bit more. And so, but I think instead of taking things so personal, I started to offer grace when situations of tension would happen. And instead of taking it so personal and thinking about myself, offer grace to the situation and to my dad or my family. And now when I do that here, I now know that with us within our unit, I also do it outside of the house now. So I have learned to offer more grace to people. If I see someone who has some sort of behavior or something that I think shouldn't have been done or is odd, then I start to think, oh, no, I wonder if they need help, or, they must have some other reason. There has to be something else going on, which is what PAC says, right? Find that core thing. And that's what I have learned about myself, like offer more grace, and try to figure out what really is the issue when people are like that. What can you do to support?
Yeah, I love that. So
I thought I got my idea. What's one thing I learned?
I'm coming to you. Hold on. I want to reflect Tracy's.
Told you, mute her.
Go for it, Rebecca.
Thank you, Tracy, for sharing that. And now I forgot what I was going to say, and I had something.
Oh, good. Can I
talk about what Tracy said, Brenda? All right, Tracy. Thank you for saying that self-discovery, that grace piece. That because we hear time after time after time, this isn't just about someone living with dementia. This is about everyone. Like positive approach to care applies to everyone. And so I love that. So that it extends someone in the grocery store that, cuts in front of you. What's going on with them? We just don't know. And so I love that. I love that idea of grace. Yes, Brenda.
Okay, I learned. I apparently did a very good job raising a daughter.
I'm going for that one. Woo!
But if I were that's true, but I know that's true. But my one thing that I kind of have a new mantra. Whenever I find myself judging, I say, judge less, love more. Judge less, love more. And
Can you fit the word grace in there somewhere?
I was trying to take a different approach. Could you mute her, please?
Terry has that power. I don't have that power. You guys, I love that because I remember in December, we talked about this idea that Mark's always been like a servant. Like he has always had a servant heart. He has always helped others and shown love to others and given of his time and his skills and his awareness. And I mean, that's just what he's done. And so it's really neat that you guys are continuing to do that. And part of your sharing and supporting others is by being an open book and sharing your journey with folks. And that's amazing. You are saying, we don't get it all right. It's not perfect. We've made some big uh-ohs, and we probably will tomorrow, but we're living this journey well with dementia. And, you're sitting here and you all have smiles on your face. And Teepa talks a lot about how families are impacted by dementia negatively, but you're really a living example of a positive family experience. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I can't help, the song in my head right now is Put a little love in your heart. I mean, that is like playing in my head right now, hearing you guys. So I think that should be your theme song. I'm just saying.
Oh, I love it.
I'm just saying, but that's what I'm feeling right now, guys. So I'll just leave that right there, just for you. Right there.
Oh boy, Tracy's gonna run with it. I can see it now.
Thank you guys so much. You
Thank you.
are amazing. And like I said, I know I don't have to tell you this, but keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing
Well, thank you for giving us a platform to share. Thank you.
Yeah, you guys are amazing. Thanks for being on and sharing. And you guys put some love in the comments or in the chat to this wonderful family, because I know that people are seeing this and are being impacted. So thank you always. Thanks, Carrie, for keeping us going on track. And we'll see you all next week for another Straight Up Positive.
See you next week.